Good morning, friends, family. Good morning, all of you out there in Facebook land. Glad you could join us today and you tuned in at the right time. Let's begin our worship by getting our souls ready and just to sing this song with me. Here I am to worship.
Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days,
Good morning, friends, families, and all of you out there in Facebook land. I'm Pastor Jim Beard, and welcome this day to worship our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to feel the Holy Spirit upon our souls and be nurtured again. We are sitting again in the house of God, also called Bethel of Mound, and we're glad that you're part of this family. We believe God's family is encompassing you and everyone with God's love and abundance. So welcome. We're into this fall series. As you can see around me, all the fall colors are here, and which also means that my assistant is not here. She's probably off in a deer stand or somewhere. You know, she likes those things, and we're glad to give her these little breaks. Sue will be back again next week, I believe. So we wish her peace and joy this day as well. But we are in the middle of a series, and I just want to ramp up those who may be wondering what we're talking about these days and how it's going. We are in a series that is called The Path Forward. When the landscape changes, and you have to adjust your whole way of proceeding. And so each week we are journeying and going through change, and you have to adjust things and adapt. And we have been watching this unfold not only biblically, but through the story of Lewis and Clark, those explorers who headed west at the direction and the charge of President Jefferson to try to locate that Northwest Passage, which they were sure existed, but it didn't. It was that waterway they were looking for that everyone assumed connected, like the Mississippi, to the Pacific. Instead, they ran into mountains, the Rocky Mountains. There wasn't just one hill that then sloped down easily down to the Pacific. It was a whole range of mountain after mountain after mountain after mountain. And so the river goers had to get out of their canoes. And they had to face this challenge of, like, this is not what we expected. And they had to find new ways to get across. And so we journey with them because we're kind of in unexpected times. We're in times when the world is still adjusting to what it's like being post-pandemic, and churches are wondering how this all affects us. And so we're journeying forward. I'm using materials from Todd Bolzinger's book, Canoeing the Mountains, which is a great book for pastors, but you will enjoy his stories, and I'm just referencing some of his material today, and I want to give him some credit for that. Last week, we realized just how hard it is to let go of our long-held expectations. You know, Lewis said in his journal along the way, I will believe it to be a good, comfortable road until I am compelled. Oh, I'm compelled to believe differently. Well, he was compelled to believe differently when he got to approximately the Continental Divide and went over the hilltop, and there was not a waterway anywhere in sight. And then what did they do? Well, their journey had to proceed, and they went forward with earnest. And eventually, as we all know, they did make it through. They got through the mountains, and it was difficult. It was not what they expected. It took a lot more effort, but they made it. And it wasn't anything like they had anticipated, and yet they adapted along the way. Kind of reminds me of journeys that Janet and I have taken on other paths that maybe you can relate to. We visited Bryce Canyon National Park once down in Utah. Here is your picture of the week. That is another path to consider. That is Bryce Canyon. Yep, it's filled with lots of winding pathways through some of what I would call the strangest rock formations on Earth. Even that picture doesn't capture the diversity and surrealness of that place. We also encountered some unforgettable people on this path. This path was one that wound around and took several hours to complete. And we were on this path through grueling heat, it felt like, during the summer. And you go by these formations called hoodoos and other maybe sandstone formations, types like that. And one family had stopped. I'll just tell you, we stopped often and had a little snack and got some water and things. And we just had stopped in here because this other family that had stopped with a bunch of kids with them. And so mom, it appeared, was very prepared and had lunch for her kiddos. And who wants this for lunch? And what she started passing out was uh, cans of baked beans. No, not cooked baked beans, just raw, uncooked baked beans. Well, that was a little unexpected for us. We thought, I'm not sure I would pack raw baked beans. Maybe you would. I haven't tried that. But anyway, she did. And then there was this other couple that I will never forget. It's like we're nearing the end of our trek, and we know there's this very steep switchback that goes up to the end. You know, it's going to take a while. And we're at the bottom, and we encountered this, I call them grandma and grandpa type, and they have just come down this path all the way to the bottom, and they look exhausted, okay? And they get to the end and they're just sitting down and breathing heavily, and they don't have any water in this desert like climate. They don't have any food, and they're going the other way, of course. And I'm going, I hope they get out of there alive. I still wonder. I think they had to send in a helicopter for them. I worry about them to this day, and my wife laughs at me. But you know, these are the unexpected people we run into when we take new paths and journeys, and we don't know what we're going to find or who we're going to find along the way. So, some of our paths, we're going to encounter people like this, and I want you to think about, maybe paths you've been on, maybe not the people so much, but here's your question to get you settled in for the day. What was one of the strangest places you have ever visited? One of the strangest places I have ever visited, or if you don't like the word strangest, maybe it's most exotic, just one of the most enjoyable. But where have you been that just caught your attention? And why don't you type those in to let us get to know you a little better? Where have you been to? What are memories you have that way? And we will be back after, let's see, about a minute and a half to see what you wrote and get into our stories of Lewis and Clark and our biblical characters. Yeah, the landscape can be changing all around us. I love that one, Rachel. Thank you for adding a tour under a city. Now, isn't that an unusual trek to be on? So you all keep thinking and add as we go. It's just a great way for us to connect and see where different people have been and to share our lives together. You want a little prayer as we settle in? I want a little prayer. Let's just do a little prayer. Hey, Holy Lord, who travels with us on all of our paths. Some are normal and smooth and going along just fine, and others we're off the path, or we're not sure where the path is going, and it gets really steep, rocky, challenging. And yet we know you're the God who goes with us through all of those. And so, Holy One, I pray your spirit is felt by those who are not on smooth paths these days. May you have a spirit that continues to comfort and guide and nurture as they keep moving forward. All this I pray through Christ our Lord. Amen. All right, it is November. Okay, catch that month. It's November 1805. 1805. And the Corps of Discovery, which is the group that went off with Lewis and Clark, they had made it to the Pacific Ocean. Yay! But now they found themselves in a rather unenviable situation. They are extremely low on supplies because everything is taken longer and it's been harder, and they've exhausted their effort just to get there, and now they are facing a damp, cold winter ahead. Can you relate here in Minnesota? If you're, not in Minnesota, maybe you can't relate, but the chill is blowing in. It is almost that time, and they have no supplies. Okay, so they are camped. Well, they're about to camp on what we would call now the Oregon coast. Okay, they are up there, and here are the captains, Lewis and Clark, and they are not seeing eye to eye on where to camp. Okay, who wanted? One of them, Lewis. Lewis wanted to be closer to the shore. Clark wanted to be further upstream for whatever reasons, and they were not they were not settling this. And so what they did at that moment would have been even unthinkable up to this point. They then gathered all of their folks together, their Corps of Discovery, for a vote. Yeah, you heard me. It is a vote, and this is in a military unit. Okay, I mean this is not how things work when you're in the military. Hey, let's just all take a vote on what's going on here. No, they gave no rationale to why they were doing this in their journals, just that they decided to take a vote. And these are the same captains who, well, when they're coming along so far, they didn't give a vote when it was time to figure out should we go this way or that way on this river passage that they had found again. And no, they were the captains in control and kept them going. But now they're going to allow a decision to be made by everyone. Interesting. It is like, here is a democracy in action. But not only did every man in the Corps of Discovery get to have his say on where they should stay, upstream, downstream, wherever. York, who was Lewis's slave, who was along with them, was also given a vote, as was Sacagawea. Remember the Shoshone teenage woman who gave birth along the way and was a Native American woman. Woman is given a vote just like everyone else. This, we dare say, was the first open vote held in the Pacific Northwest. It is also the first time, perhaps, in American history that a black slave was given the right to vote, and that a woman was given the right to vote. It's been said that the future kind of begins in the margins. It begins on the fringes before it becomes to the center. It's said that out here is where all the action is taking place, and definitely this is the fringe, if there's ever a fringe on this Oregon coast, where something new is happening. Watch this. It's like the future of America is about to be played out, and sure enough, votes came to all these groups of people along the way. They were counted in for the first time with Lewis and Clark. So then they did survive the whole winter there on the Oregon Trail there, the far western shore, and now the party, come spring, had to turn around and go back and report everything they had discovered. Oh, joy! We have to go face those mountains again. So, in a military unit, I understand that it is still a long way off. They're isolated. They're far away from safety. They're far away from all these folks around them. You know, it's like every soldier counts when you're doing these things. And so there's this soldier whose name is John Coulter. Okay, he wasn't just your average soldier. He was one of their most trusted soldiers in the group, one of the leaders of the group, and John Coulter did something surprising. They're part of the way back into the mountains already, and we read in Clark's journal that on August 15th, 1806, the captains had decided and agreed on that very day that John Coulter may leave the Corps of Discovery. You can go off. He's going to join two trappers and go back with them following this interesting river that they had found. You're going to allow one of your prime people to go off because he wants to try something new and go explore that option over there with two folks that have nothing to do with the group at all. Well, normally they'd say, no way, you can't do it. And yet, Lewis and Clark said, go ahead. Go see what you can find. Once again, unconventional plans are taking place. And John Coulter became then, in essence, the first white man to discover, to explore, to enjoy the geysers, the thermal hot springs, the area that we would come to lovingly know as Yellowstone National Park. If he had not gone off that discovery, that land probably would have taken a lot longer to be part of our story here in America. So without question, we've got Lewis and Clark doing unorthodox things again. They are interesting leaders who are creatively combining both what should we say, structure and discipline, and following what has to be done, a military chain of command, and yet they combine this with flexibility, they combine it with adaptability, they combine it with an openness to listen to what the people are saying around them. This is all part of going into uncharted territory. And this is how they manage to get through it all. I think for leaders in churches in particular, perhaps the most encouraging realization from all of this is that, you're going into uncharted territory, a new place, a new land, a new whatever. And it does not make like your experiences or your knowledge or your our expertise that we've had so far, it doesn't make those things irrelevant. But what we discover when we're going into uncharted territory is that it's incomplete. We don't know everything. We will know a lot. You know a lot. You're going through lots of things. It's just there's more to be learned, more to find out about, more to embrace. It doesn't make what you have irrelevant. It says, yeah, bring all of that. Bring all of who you are to this. And now let's add more to it. Okay? If the margins and those, if you can listen to these voices out here and bring those together with those at the dead center, kind of an interesting phrase for those of us in the center sometimes. Yeah, is it dead there? Yeah, you're right in the dead center. But if all these groups in between, if we can interact respectfully and learn together, there is this possibility, you see, of genuine and lasting change and fortitude that affords all of us. It's when those in power, the power brokers and the long-time stakeholders, if they can be open though to engaging the ideas, the unexplored, the models, the possibilities of realities that are out there, and they're going to engage that with those who are not in the center of all this. Maybe they are the fringe, shall we call that? When they will listen to the lonely voice in the cubicle, and you ask for that person's opinion, when the field worker with the clipboard is actually listened to, when the disconnected and discontented ones in the back pew, or they're just lingering even in the narthex or outside the doors even, have new ideas of ways of being church, ways of being church that will appeal to them and to their friends around them. When we are open to putting our, just the way it has to be, the established ways aside for a moment and learn from these voices, then new ways of thinking and new ways of seeing are possible. Yeah. But if we only want to listen to the one group, maybe the committed group, the ones that are in the center of it all, we will never get to the heart of the issue that we have to face sometimes together. Author David McRaney calls this survivorship bias. Interesting phrase, survivorship bias. Survivorship bias is the tendency we have to, just look at things like, here are the ones that have survived, here are the success stories of what we're going through, and drawing conclusions about reality from their experiences. That's the survivorship bias. Okay, so McRaney has this great illustration I think you'll enjoy. I was caught by it. It's about a group of World War II engineers who are trying to make the bombers safer. They're getting shot down, and it's a disaster. We got to make these things safer, and they did this by, of course, studying the bullet holes. All these patterns, they've been shot at, and then the planes returning, they have all of these holes in them, and so they knew that probably they needed more armor on these planes, and they wanted it to fly, and they knew they couldn't make it too strong or too covered in armor because it's not going to fly well. So they had to only pick and choose where to put additional armor and protection. Okay, and so they tried to determine where best to do that to add this extra heavy-duty armor. You with me so far? Okay. So when they examined the planes, looking at these planes that have come back, they discovered that they were shot up along the bottom and on the wings and near the tail gunner. Don't ask me what that is, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, what were they again? The bottom of the plane, the wings, and near the tail gunner. So the engineers are preparing for putting additional armor there because that's where all the holes are. Okay, but one statistician, he was not one of their group. He was not one of the engineers. His name was Abraham Wald. Abraham Wald, he's not part of the group. He happens to be passing by, stops to hear what is going on, and then challenged their underlying assumptions. And amazingly, they listened to him. They listened to him, and took his advice, this outsider who's not an engineer, what does he know, Wald, you see, had pointed out to them that the planes they were studying were the survivors. These are the planes which were not shot down. These are the ones who got through it and came back. So in other words, Wald is saying that this is exactly where you should not put the armor. Open your eyes, you engineers. Don't you see a plane? A plane can survive even if it's shot up along the bottom or on its wings or in the tail gunning area. These other ones that fell, that is not where they were hit. So the engineers had to go back and run more tests and more studies, and they discovered that they needed to add more armor. Not there. He was right. They needed to add it to the ailerons, the engine, to the stabilizers, and especially around the pilot. That's what made the planes safer. And so by listening to a different interpretation, a different voice, a new perspective on things, it gave them the insight they needed in order to make the right solution with the right decisions. Okay? So, survivorship bias. We just tend to think that way. Survivorship bias makes us, sometimes we stop listening to everybody's voices. We stop listening, especially to the marginalized, is what we've heard. And it's probably true. And it's because of whatever social criteria we're using, we're unconsciously employing that sometimes, and we're not taking in these unexpected voices that come to us. Historically, of course, in America, these have been the voices of women. These have been the voices of ethnic minorities, of lay people in churches, of the young who, why would we listen to their voices? Or the elderly, they're too old. Or the poor, what would they know? The less educated, yeah, right. And we're not going to listen to maybe new members who don't know exactly what's going on here. The non-attenders, what kind of voice would they have to guide churches through things? And it's whoever voice you just are not hearing may very well be the voice we'd really need to listen to. Sometimes even the voice of a prostitute can save us. Do you remember the story? The story is in our Bibles. The story with the ancient Israelites way back in the Older Testament. They're entering into a new land. Yep, they're going to go into this land. It's called the land beyond the Jordan River. They're right on the edge there. They're about to go into this uncharted territory. It's a land that has been rumored to be flowing with milk and honey. But they don't know what's ahead. They don't know who's there. And so their leader at the moment, Joshua, decides to send scouting spies ahead to see what they face, mainly what their enemies will be all about. And so they came to Jericho, and they were befriended and hidden by a prostitute named Rahab. And she became their partner in keeping them safe. It was an unexpected encounter. They were not looking for her, but she is the one then who saved their entire mission by hiding them, by bringing them into her home, covering them up on the roof with the crop that was drying, and kept them from being captured and killed. And then centuries later, she is still remembered. This was not a minor incident. This is what allowed them to go forward into their land. And even in the book of James, which is in the Newer Testament here, they even lift her up. It says, in the same way, was not even Rahab, the prostitute, considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction. Don't know which way to go. Don't go that way. Go over there. Go do this. And they listened. They took her advice. Or perhaps you might recall a different story from our biblical history of an unexpected relationship. Unexpected because, well, this is not what they did. It's found in the book of Acts, okay, where a well-established biases were being broken. They're being broken open so that God's love can spread even and farther and wider and go into more lands and more people ever wider. It's a post-resurrection story, okay? Jesus has come, died, been resurrected, and now we have Peter heading up this new movement of Christ followers, okay? And in Acts chapter 10, the story goes as follows. Talking things over, they went on into the house where Cornelius introduced Peter to everyone who had come. And Peter addressed them. You know, I'm sure that this is highly irregular. Jews just don't do this, visit and relax with people of another race. But God has just shown me that no race is better than any other. So the minute I was sent for, I came with no questions asked. But now I'd like to know why you sent for me. And Cornelius said, 4 days ago, at about this time, mid-afternoon, I was home praying, and suddenly there was a man right in front of me, flooding the room with light. And he said, Cornelius, your daily prayers and neighborly acts have brought you to God's attention, and I want you to send to Joppa to get Simon, the one they call Peter. He's staying with Simon the tanner down by the sea. So I did it. I sent for you, and you've been good enough to come, and now we're all here in God's presence, ready to listen to whatever the Master put in your heart to tell us. Peter fairly exploded with his good news. It's God's own truth. Nothing could be plainer. God plays no favorites. It makes no difference who you are or where you're from. If you want God and you're ready to do as he says, the door is open. The message he sent to the children of Israel that through Jesus Christ, everything is being put together again. Well, he's doing it everywhere, among everyone. I dare say that still today, Jesus Christ is doing exactly that, putting things together again and again and again in new ways for us. Could it be that we need new, unexpected partners in order to move forward with whatever God has planned for either our individual lives or our communal life together? You know, could it be that our even I think of this as we are a Bethel with not a lot of racial diversity, but maybe it's our black brothers and sisters who have a lot to teach us that we should be listening to right now. Interesting. Tell you what, I think a good exercise is to listen carefully to whatever is being said by some of our friends that way. Voices on the margin, in the fringes. Let's take just 3 minutes, and I want you to listen to what this gentleman has to say. Maybe there's something we can learn for our own journeys, which way to go and which way not to go. The man is Rashad Robinson. He is the executive director of colorofchange.org. I've not really heard of that, but I'm impressed when I read that with 1 million viewers, 1 million members, Color of Change is the nation's largest online civil rights organization. And since 2005, Color of Change has been leading people and what to do and how to do it in fresh new ways. Let's open our eyes. And he's been holding governments and corporations accountable. Uh, how to do that? And he just keeps coaching people. He has visionary solutions, and maybe there's something there for us to pick up as well. Take a listen to Rashad Robinson.
What breaks my heart is seeing people in their communities who lack the power to move issues forward that they care about. And what opens it up is seeing people be able to build the type of campaigns where they're heard and they're counted and they're visible in a new way. You know, for Color of Change, we think that, every single day we're hit with all sorts of information, from the radio to the television to the newspaper, and that information makes us upset or inspired or angry. And what we work to try to do is pair that information with something to do real time, to give people something clear and strategic to do, to channel the presence of that issue into the power to actually make real change. And so not letting people go back to doing what they were doing before, but use that hurt, that pain, that sorrow, that anger into something that will actually move society in the right direction. I think for faith communities, like all communities, sometimes we can see these moments of inequality or inequity, and we can be demoralized or in pain, but the way in which we can collectively engage with people around us and not just talk about the issue, but work towards real systemic change, make the demands in our political system, have faith that we collectively can come together and challenge institutions to do the right thing and bring our full selves into this room. I have this mantra that I say to myself whenever I'm sort of in really challenging situations is, even when I'm afraid, I choose to face challenges with the fullness that I am. And I think for all of us, bringing our fullness into the room, our faith, our stories, our people into the rooms, into the work that we seek to do and the world that we hope to create is how we make real change. What gives me hope right now is even in the face of so much struggle, in the face of so much inequality, seeing young immigrant activists stand up and fight to be heard, seeing Black Lives Matter activists fight to be heard, seeing activists across many communities working to make their situation better, and seeing allies standing up and joining hands. It gives me hope, it nourishes me, and it makes me feel like there's more that I can do.
Unexpected partners. Black and white allies standing up and joining hands. Unexpected partners. Peter and Cornelius breaking bread together. Unexpected partners. Joshua's spies and Rahab, and they're saving each other. Unexpected partners, a World War II engineers and a statistician making planes safer. Unexpected partners. Lewis, Clark, and Sacagawea discovering a way through the unknown. Yes, today's churches and all of us in them, as we go through this world, we must be courageous as we face the future. Courageous, and to do so wisely and well will require first and foremost a commitment to a collaborative engagement with each other, and for leaders to help lead that way, and to look for unexpected partners along the way. Uncharted leadership and navigating. We will survive. We will actually thrive by listening to the the voices we perhaps are unconsciously ignoring. Voices like a Sacagawea, who was a woman, a teenager. Yeah, listen to those voices. By expanding the table of participation, perhaps, beyond what has been imaginable, and allowing a woman and a black slave to vote with us, to stretch things by discovering new worlds and seeing what will come by just being okay with branching off and letting Coulter go off and discover places like Yellowstone National Park. But mostly the challenges of uncharted leadership. They keep us exploring, they keep us looking, they keep us open, they keep us becoming people who are completely, we're probably the ones who will be completely different by the end of all this than when we started. What a great thing that will be. Are we ready to be that kind of people? Are we ready to adapt and be flexible? Are we ready to do and be whatever God is asking us to do and be? What's next? Are we ready to be that kind of people to respond? Are we ready to welcome the unexpected partners onto our path, our journey forward? I hope so. Amen. I invite you to keep thinking on these things as we turn to our time of offering, and I'll let you know it's all of your giving that just keeps us going too, but it's also all your giving which keeps your hearts open and generous and thriving as well. So I believe on our feeds here we often give you all the links to say here you can give here or be there, wherever it happens to be. Make your generosity known and your hearts open that way. And as you're perhaps giving your gifts electronically and sending them forward, here's another little video for you to contemplate during this time. This one, I think, challenges you to think about who do you see when you look out? Who do you see? An enemy or someone else? Take a look.
When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother. When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother. When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother. When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother. Forgiveness is the garment of our courage. the power to make the peace we long to know. Open up our eyes to see the wounds that bind all of humankind. May our shudder hearts greet the dawn of light with charity and love. When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see now. When I look into the face, I see now. I see now. I see my brother. I see my sister. I see my father. I see my mother. When I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother. I see my brother.
Who do you see? Who do you see in these unexpected encounters, unexpected partners that God brings together for us? Concentrate on that. Think on that and contemplate that, I should say, this week. Okay, and thank God for those encounters. So this week, as you're about to go forth, just letting you know that we continue to explore and find ways to keep moving forward here at Bethel. There was a leadership day here just yesterday that got together and started looking at the some of the harsh numbers and some of the what do we got to change? How do we have to adapt? Who should we be listening to? If you're from the Bethel area and you know some of the folks who were able to be present, I invited you to chat with them, start talking about it. Now is the time because we have a vote coming up at a congregational meeting that is set for November 14th. It will not only approve something which has to be done every time in November, which is the pastor's compensation package, but we're going to also be proposing and voting on a preliminary operating budget for 2022, which may need to have a lot of adjustments made this year. We also have maybe a mortgage refinancing type of a vote just to keep things moving forward on some of that. But those are the official businesses, along with just where are we going and what are we doing? How do we have to keep being adaptable as well? So come be part of those conversations. And if you're not able to do that, why don't you email me or somehow get the message you'd like to know some more information. I'd be happy to share with you as well. Letting you know that there are sign-up forms that we keep adapting, finally figuring out how to do sign-up registration forms on our website, and 2 new ones that have popped up are there for you to sign up for. The movie, for They Know Not What They Do, that's coming up on October 28th. It's got a movie and discussion night from 6:30 to 8:30. You can sign up for that. Or if you're in the area and want to hand out treats, we are looking for as many as possible to line our upper drive and have a great place for, again, community service and engagement. Yeah, come with your trunk, as they say, and your own treats, and be ready to hand those out. The sign-up form for that is also online, and you can probably hit all these registration buttons on any of those Bethel broadcasts every week that come out on Friday morning as well. And they need the dates. The movie is on October 28th, which is a Thursday. Trunk or treat is on Halloween itself, October 31st, that Sunday afternoon. Okay, look online. Both of those are mentioned if you want to go to our bethelofmound.org site or watch your broadcast. What I was going to say too is your broadcasts. If you're not on our email list, you might as well get on it to learn what keeps going on around here and how you might be involved near or far on some of these things. I would be remiss if I weren't saying, hey, also get onto your calendars the following weekend, which is the UMW Bazaar, one of my favorite times. Yeah, that is going to be Saturday and Sunday, that first weekend, full weekend in November. I believe it's the 6th and 7th. You can get more information at our website on that as well. And that is the same weekend in which we celebrate All Saints' Day, where we toll the bells for those who have passed in the past year. And if you have a name of friends, families, anyone you would like lifted up and the bells rung for them, get their names to us ahead of time, and we will be glad to include them that day. All right. Till then, next week is Halloween, isn't it? Goodness, time keeps marching right along. We're going to continue down the path forward here, and next week's title is called "Could It Be?" Could it be? Could it be that God is taking our churches, is taking our organizations, is taking our lives, and we're going into these uncharted territories, these journeys that we are not ready for or expecting, in order for the church and our individual spirituality to be even, I don't know, what could it be? Maybe it could be an even greater witness to the world. That would be awesome. Could it be that through all this disruption of the pandemic, that God is guiding people to even a richer spiritual journey? Wouldn't that be awesome? Could it be that this is maybe going to be a good thing for us, and we will discover even something more priceless than Yellowstone National Park for our own journeys of faith? So maybe could it be that the best is still yet to come? Let's talk about that next week. But there is a closing song for us today that I'm just going to send you off to as you conclude this worship with us. Click on over to the song by the Sidewalk Prophets. Oh, help me find it. Yeah, it's not a depressing song. It's a song of saying, God, help me find it. Help me to listen. Help me to be open to where the world is going, and help me find it, God. So from God's house to yours, I hope you find it. I hope you are open to it. I hope you are ready for unexpected partners along the way. Go forth, my friends, and be blessed on God's amazing journey for you. See you next week.